welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Aries, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of August 2024. I hope you are well. Sorry, it's very hot today, so I'm having to run the air conditioning unit in the background, so if you can hear a whirring, humming, whatever, that's what that is. Now, before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's the first link in the description box. The second link in the description box is to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, over on the Circle platform. The link for that is also down in the description box. If it's something that you might be interested in, you know what to do with that link. Right, Aries, let's get on with this. Let's just move this. Let's move my coffee out of the way. Right, and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Aries, please? There's the first one. We have the Page of Pentacles. Let's pop it there. What about current energy, please, for Aries? Well, I mean, that might be an accurate reflection of how you feel life's going at the moment, but we're not going to take all of those because that's ridiculous. Let's give them another shuffle. Try that one again. Current energy, please. Thank you. There we go. Page of Wands was the same card that came out here. Definitely wanted to come out. And what's coming towards Aries, please? Thank you. Lovers in reverse. All right. We've got the 8 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, which generally symbolises the need for hard work, discipline, commitment, you know, kind of grinding away at something that you would, in order that you will achieve mastery of it at some point or another. Now, I like the way that we're going from kind of sideways to upright, because I always feel like the cards are on the turn one way or another. So right, we've got 2 cards of initiation here, but we have the lovers card, which is in reverse, which doesn't necessarily suggest to me that whatever it is that you are trying to initiate, whatever new cycle you are trying to put down some roots in, or expand out rather, is going to go the way quite that you think that it will. I know I mangled that sentence, bear with me. Let's get some clarifiers and see what it's about, and then we'll talk about it properly. Tell me about Page of Pentacles. We have the 10 of Swords, and we have the King of Wands. Tell me about the Page of Wands, please. Chariot, very nice. Death and the Ace of Wands. And then what about this Lover's card in reverse, please? 10 of Pentacles, 4 of Wands and the Moon. Right, Queen of Wands is at the bottom of the deck here. Let me rearrange these cards, well, not rearrange, straighten them up so that we can see what we're looking at here. So we have both the King and the Queen of Wands putting in an appearance. You, obviously, for me, are Aries, Queen of Wands. But we also have, you know, the corresponding Leo energy here. And it doesn't have to refer specifically to just Aries and Leo. It has an energetic presentation too. And I feel like because they've both shown up, that's what it is here for you. This being the active masculine aspect of it, this being the more passive feminine, right? How interesting that we should have the particular major arcana that we do here on the table. My eye has been drawn to those first above all of the other cards that are on the table, and we'll get to those. You know, I'll move through it consecutively shortly, but just in terms of impressions, we've got the Chariot card, which is about bold, decisive movement forwards, but it's also about self-awareness and self-knowledge and self-motivation, self-discipline, all of these sorts of things. And it's meeting death right here. There is a transformation occurring here. Now, the transformation may well be of you, that's possible, but the transformation may also be of a particular set of circumstances that perhaps, you know, we're closing out here in some sort of way. We've got an initiation of something new that's coming straight off the back of this. But then we have this Lover's card in reverse. Now, I haven't kept up with the astrology in the last few months. My bad, I've been super busy. But I do know that Mars is in Gemini at the moment, and this is a Gemini card. Now, the Lover's card generally is about It's about manifestation, but it's kind of passive alignment to the universe in that way that kind of opens doors without realizing that that's what we're doing, right? It's about conscious co-creation. When it shows up this way round, it sort of means the opposite, generally speaking, for me at least. And because it's got meanings of harmony and union and all those sorts of things here, the fact that it is here in such a... it feels like a stamp. I can only really put it like that. It's kind of stamping its energy. It feels a little bit like, not this way, Aries. You know, you're not going this way, you're going a different way. And then we have the moon card, right? Triggering this introspection, triggering, not initiative, what's the word that I'm after? Intuition, there we go. Triggering an intuition that actually something is changing deeply. It's almost like what was initiated over here, or more accurately, actually, let's say what was initiated over here in the completion of something is not yet fully developed or evolved. And you might have, with, you know, typical Aries enthusiasm, thought that you'd seized on all of the answers. And the rest of August seems to be saying, nah, it wasn't what you thought it was. It wasn't that way. It's not going that way. Like something fundamentally is changing here. Possibly about plans, possibly about what it is that you're wanting to achieve and the way that you're going about creating it. But there seems to be something that's deeply, internally fundamental that's shifting. And all other things will flow therefrom. But this is not the time necessarily to try and push something through, unless, of course, and we do have to issue this caveat, it is in the pushing of something that you realize that you've made some sort of mistake in your assessment of what was needed, what you have to do, what you thought that you wanted, right? These kind of aspects to it. So let's start over here. Page of Pentacles. I did say right at the beginning, it felt like there was something that you were trying to root that wasn't really, it wasn't going to play out the way that you expected it to, right? The Page of Pentacles is a card of initiation, just as the aces are and the other pages are. And for me, it's very much about understanding the value of something, right? Committing yourself to something because you understand its intrinsic value. It's showing up here sideways, which means, to me, that there has been something that has occurred recently for you, and perhaps it is in the nature of endings, perhaps it is in the nature of bitter disappointment, that at this point it's very difficult for you to comprehend as the blessing that it was. The Ten of Swords generally is one of the more uncomfortable cards in the tarot. It does represent an end, as all the tens do, but it's an end that is cutting. It's an end that bites. It's an end that does not feel comfortable. And in these situations, the only thing that really remains after that is hope, right? Hope springs eternal and all that lot. We've got this chap here turning his face towards the the coming dawn, and we're reminded of this observation that it is always coldest just before the dawn. We've got the King of Wands here presiding over this scene. Now, whether he has caused this scene or whether he's looking at it and trying to work out what would be the best way to deal with it, right? Because King of Wands is all about action in the same way as actually the Queen of Wands is, but the Queen of Wands is much more reflective about the actions that need to be taken. The King of Wands is where the actions are actually happening. So it could be that there's some sort of ending that you've brought about, and I don't even think at this point that it would be a deliberate ending. It feels almost accidental. What do I mean by that? This does not feel to me like there's been some sort of situation that you've been in where you've been like, well, this is balls, I hate this, I'm going to leave. Like a bad job or a bad relationship or something like that. It's not, it does not feel at this point self-aware enough and of the material world enough that it was something that you were looking at and going, well, this isn't good for me, I'm going to go somewhere else. It feels like it's something that's just kind of happened, a little bit like falling dominoes. And suddenly, before you realise what's happened, it's ended and it feels uncomfortable. Now, that could be as a result of your actions. But this King of Wands here looking at it is going, well, shit, this has happened. What do I do now? What is the next step now? And I think this feeling of having seized upon an answer that isn't actually where the universe wants you to go, right? Now, I do maintain the belief that we really don't deviate from our path ever. And certain things that are set out in front of us, even if we feel like we have been wandering in the wilderness for 5 years, having made grave, terrible mistakes, and then trying to work out, the consequences of our actions and atone for them in some sort of way, I feel like that was exactly our path. That situation was set up there so that we understood via the mechanism of that lesson what it was that we needed to learn. So I feel like in some way or another, rather than sitting and cogitating about this too much, you've been like, right, okay, well, that's done, it's ended, what's the next thing? On to the next, on to the next, on to the next. But this Page of Pentacles here says you have not quite extracted the value from this situation yet, which is to say your understanding of the situation has not yet fully bloomed. And we see you kind of bouncing into the current energy here of the Page of Wands. I know the answers, I know what I need to do, this is where I'm going to start, this is what I'm going to get on with. And we see the Chariot card, the Death card, and the Ace of Wands. Now, on the face of it, these cards look very, very good, except that we have already picked up on that little thread there somewhere, which is that there's a little bit too much enthusiasm in one direction, and that is, it feels to me, not the correct direction. There is more of this situation that is yet to unfold. So the Chariot card, denoting as it does, it's Cancer, and we've got Scorpio there. So we've got kind of watery themes coming in. Denoting a situation whereby you feel like you know exactly what it is that you have to do, and you're getting out there and you're doing it. And that you believe, more specifically, that the transformation that has occurred, or even perhaps the ending that has occurred, is now complete and done, and you are free to move on and initiate double initiation here in a particular direction off the back of what has happened. But like I said, this situation has not yet fully played out, Aries, and this is an important thing to pay attention to, even if it's only a quick side eye every now and again, because I don't want this to broadside you. I don't feel like it is going to broadside you exactly, because that has quite a sort of ambushed feel to it. You don't see it coming immediately, but I feel like it's moving slowly into your awareness, because what's coming towards you for the rest of August is this closing down of avenues of travel that you assumed were open to you. In the upright, the Lovers card talks about union and harmony, and we extrapolate from that it is us being in harmony with universal intent, right? Us being in alignment with what the universe wants from us. When it's in the reverse like this, it can speak to division, it can speak to strife, it can speak to things pulling apart, people pulling apart, relationships pulling apart. But the overwhelming feeling that I've got here is that you're charging off in a direction and the universe is saying no. It's not that way. You're not working with me, Aries, you're working against me at this point. And this is leading us to a point where you have to renegotiate with yourself exactly what you believe is going on, and what it is that, you know, everything that you kind of worked out here, this is my path forward, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm throwing myself into, whether any of that actually works for you moving forward. So let me get another deck out here. Which one do I want? Let's get the Wild Unknown out from here, because we do have another 10. Now, For those of you who are less familiar with the tarot, there are 4 tens in the minor arcana. There's there's each one. There's one for each of the elements. Let's put it that way. The Ten of Swords and the Ten of Wands are considered to be the more negative. They have more negative connotations. And there are 2 that are considered to be more positive, and that's the Ten of Cups and Ten of Pentacles. However, in the tarot, nothing is black and white, and nothing is exactly what it appears on the surface, particularly not when the moon is involved in what's going on. So whilst we might look at this and go, well, that was fucking horrible and I really didn't enjoy it and it was gross and it's over and now I'm free and I'm going to go do this thing over here, whether it was you bringing about the ending or you simply observing the wreckage, the carnage of the ending and going, well, that wasn't very nice, I'm going this way. Sometimes the Ten of Swords can represent a real change in mindset, right? It can be a welcome relief from the prison that we build for ourselves in our own minds. So when we hit the Ten of Swords, it's actually an incredibly good card, right? Because that burden is shifting. We've learned what we needed to learn and we've moved on. And people get very complacent with the good tens, right? Ten of Pentacles, the Ten of Cups, because both of them have this quality sometimes of indicating a happily ever after. And I think the problem with the happily ever after is that it's often naive, because there always is an answer after. There always is something that occurs after the happily ever after, and we never get a chance to see it. There's a deck that's actually brilliant called the After Tarot, which I own somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I've got it somewhere. There is also correspondingly a Before Tarot. And in both of these decks, it shows you what's happening in the seconds leading up to what we usually see in a standard deck of tarot cards, and what followed immediately thereafter too. And I think this is a really genius take on this, because what we've got here is a snapshot of the energy as it stands right there. But sometimes we're missing the context. So if we haven't truly understood exactly what it is that's gone on here, it's very difficult for us to understand then what value there is to be gained from it, right? Because we simply have not sat with it for long enough. On the other side of things, you know, seeing what happens immediately after can give us a context that we don't have when we just snap this scene right here and we go, oh, everything's brilliant, you know. It's not accurate. There's not enough information. Now, it's funny that we should be saying this when Jupiter is in Gemini. If anything, everybody is fucking drowning in information right now. I don't know about you, but I certainly am. And I've, you know, stepped right away from my fucking phone. Just because, you know, I have hit my fucking saturation point and I don't want any more. So what I'm not saying here is that you need more information, because it doesn't feel to me like that's what this is about. It does feel to me, though, that the information that you have got has not necessarily been put together in the right order yet. And maybe you have to push just a little bit further than would be advisable for you to recognise what's happened and pull back. Now, I've got this Wild Unknown deck here. Let me just give this a quick shuffle. Because this Ten of Pentacles, like I said, is another 10. It's representing the end of something. Whereas this, on the face of it, is the end of something and you're glad to move away from it. This one feels a little bit more testing. I would go as far as to say, for some of you, you're trying to create some sort of new thing for yourself, some sort of new situation, maybe even reinvent yourself in some sort of way. But there's a cost to pay. And that cost is what has been. And I'm not sure if yet you are at the point where you're able to fully grasp that. Let me just get some... That's 10 of... Whoa. I think that was the Justice card. Let me have a look. Oh. It is. Not only is it the Justice card, it's the Justice card in reverse. And that's important. And we have the Six of Pentacles, right. So, The Justice card represents the sign of Libra, which is all the more important because it is your opposite sign in the zodiac there. So we have that aspect, all right, that this is something along the axis from you, and something therefore that isn't necessarily right in your viewpoint. Right? You think about the circle of the zodiac, right, and how the energy is moving through the zodiacal wheel at all times. It naturally follows that our eye is going to be on what comes next, right? Particularly if you're an Aries, okay? So what comes next for you would be Taurus, right? It's spring, it's things taking off, things growing, all that kind of thing, right? It's the expansion of what you initiated. Your eye is not on what's going on the other side of the zodiacal wheel with your opposite sign. Now, because your sign is where the North Node is sitting right now, certainly till the end of this year, and Libra is where the South Node is sitting, I feel like there's an aspect of something here that is kind of tapping into a past version of you. You know, the South Node for everyone is in Libra at the moment, and whether that's in your own personal chart or whether your South Node is somewhere else, collectively speaking, that's happening, that's going on, and that feels pertinent for you because it's balancing you out in some sort of way, or certainly the energy of the North Node being in Aries, right? But the other thing that the Justice card can talk about is consequences, karma, you know, quite simply the consequences of our actions, you know, where something happens that we did not necessarily anticipate, or perhaps we did and we didn't think it through, right? Maybe we thought it would be okay, and then once we're presented with it, we're like, oh shit, it's something else. You know, the Justice card in reverse can speak simply to injustice, something happening that is so totally fucking unfair, and yet we have to balance our emotions out about it. Six of Pentacles, which is Moon in Taurus, interestingly enough. I said here before that these two cards were watery in nature, right? So there's an emotional aspect to both of these, Cancer and Scorpio. And then we have a card here that's saying your emotions about this situation need to be balanced, need to be grounded and thoughtful and all that sort of thing. And then we've got the Moon here. Now, whether this ending here is the consequences of some previous action for you, or whether this is some collateral damage from stuff that's happening around you that maybe you didn't see coming or you didn't anticipate or whatever. You know, the Ten of Pentacles is about heritage, it's about legacy, it's about stability and security and all these kind of things. And I do feel like you've been trying to move forwards without letting go of what you already had. Now, whether that's from a psychological point of view, whether it's from a material point of view, it'd be different for each of you, but that theme should still be carrying through, because we've got the creation of a new foundation that is wanted here and is under active construction, and we've got all of your cards here pushing towards that. It's saying there's a final cost, and are you willing to pay it, Aries? Are you willing to let go of what is stable and secure in order to secure this new future for yourself that you want? Is it actually even what you want, or are you sabotaging yourself? Now, the really amazing thing about self-sabotage is that when it's happening, most of us have absolutely no fucking idea that that's what we're doing. We'll justify it in all sorts of ways to ourselves to make ourselves feel better about it. Oh, I can't do it because of this or that or the other, or I have to do this thing over here because of X, Y, Z and the other. And sometimes just a little perception tweak can make everything seem very different. And particularly when we are faced with the prospect of needing to let go of something that represents security and stability for us, whether it's, you know, it can be home, it can be business, it can be family dynamics, inheritance, all sorts of things, right? It's got multivalent, like all of the cards are. But it feels to me like there's more that needs to be released here than you have allowed yourself to consider up until this point. Tell me about the moon, please. Moon, 8 of Pentacles. We have it here again. About 8 of Pentacles and the moon. Oof, what do we have here? We have the Ace of Cups. And we have the 7 of Wands with the Emperor now at the bottom of the deck. Now I like this because the Emperor is saying, quite simply, take charge. But the question is, what is it that you are supposed to take charge of? Because I feel like you've been attempting to do that over here anyway. But it's asking you to take charge from a more emotionally evolved standpoint than the one that you have taken up until this point. You know, right across this reading, we have got the impression of the new. We've got it in the Page of Pentacles, we've got it in the Page of Wands, we've got it in the Ace of Wands, and now we have it in the Ace of Cups. This is saying actions and emotions need to be balanced. They need to be pushing in the same direction. They need to be invested. And there's something that feels very unfair about this situation. Something that perhaps potentially causes you considerably more work than you had anticipated, needing to invest in something. Perhaps it's costing you more money than you expected to. You know, what it does feel like to me is that there's some aspect of, I'm going to use the word naivete, but I'm not sure that that's exactly what I mean. Because there seems to have been some sort of sidestepping going on. And I don't think it's as strong as spiritually bypassing, but it's certainly somewhere between the two. You've been trying to take charge in the way that you know how, but the universe is saying you need to take charge of yourself. It's not about the external situation, and it's also about relative values. If this didn't really mean anything to you over here, this does. And in the face of a new decision to be made betwixt old and new, one would assume, it being you, Aries, that you will always favour the new, because Mars always favours the new. So why then does this Ten of Pentacles bite so hard? Why does this take a real push from you to understand, to accept, to take responsibility for, in order that you can progress? This card here, Seven of Wands, is Mars and Leo. So it's a Leo card, but it's a Mars card, so it's kind of like a you card as well. And rather than the energy of being defensive or guarded that we often associate with the Seven of Wands, what we've got here is being a light in the dark. And I feel like you are being asked to be a light in your own darkness here. I mean, August is a pretty shitty month for everyone. I really haven't come across any sign that's having a fucking fandabidozy August. We're all being pushed to grow in a way that feels very, very uncomfortable to us. We're being pushed to commit to something, whether that's, like I said, our own growth or some sort of plan moving forwards or whatever. It's like, put your money where your mouth is. And look at the emotions that you are having around this thing. Because something about this whole situation isn't right, right? We can see that because the Lover's card is in the reverse here. And yet we have all of these cards of mastery and initiation. And, you know, this is difficult. It's asking you to take responsibility for that. To take some accountability for that. And I feel like this is the thing that lights the match, that allows you to see the way forwards, because it isn't the way that you thought you were going, Aries. It feels like something kind of coming in sideways. Like I said, it's not broadsiding you, it's not ambushing you. It's a gradual realization that there is no way forward here for you. not in the way that you thought it was. And maybe it's because this is a price that you don't want to pay. That's possible. But it feels to me like it's more around the idea of value, your value, but stuff value, circumstance value. And the way that you think about things. I mean, quite simply, it could be about the way that you have thought about what is valuable versus what you are now being asked to consider to be valuable. It's not necessarily in... Well, this is the thing. I was going to say it's not necessarily in the order of loss, but it kind of is, because it's the prospect of the loss. Are you willing to trade what was for what could be? And if not, like, what's going on inside that's saying no? Because I think for some of you, what you're starting to realise is that despite your adventurous mindset and your willingness to throw yourself out into the fray and whatnot, there are certain things that underpin you that you need to feel safe. And it's like they're suddenly getting exposed. It would be very easy to try and pivot away from those, but the Eight of Pentacles, the Emperor, the Seven of Wands, the Moon, they're all asking you to look at them for what they are. Because the other thing that's indicated by these two cards here is balance. You looked at the symmetrical nature of both of these cards, right? They're both canny symmetrical. When they're showing up like this, what we have is something that is out of balance, out of whack, out of alignment. And the personal alignment that needs to happen is the thing that you are being asked to focus on. I mean, this is really interesting, Aries. I'm going to go over to the extended now and do that. You're very welcome to join me over on Circle or Vimeo, whichever you like, is all fine. It's this sense of having kind of really thrown yourself forwards and then stopping short and being presented with a whole new... It's not even a whole different set of decisions to make, because in some ways it's kind of the same decisions. It's just got consequences that you may or may not wish to bear. And it's giving you a whole different way to look at the situation. And that needs a bit of time, which is very interesting indeed. So we're going to leave it there. Yeah. All right. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.